What's up? It is the 26th day of February. It is 1:12 in the afternoon, and I am your grumpy guide to all things gaming, the OGGM, with another OGGM adventure. And we are continuing the baby steps towards day one of Megadungeon March by renewing our Q&A about the ecology of this strange thing called dungeons. Now, thankfully, there are a lot of pre-painted dungeons out there already. So if you don't want to spend the time and effort to designing one, just find one that's been already made for you and go from there. Change it to fit whatever story you're telling or whatever setting you're using. Maybe find a big blank one or one that's already published and filled up, like, Tomb of Annihilation or Temple of the Giant King or whatever is your go-to favorite hole in the ground, and then just work with what you have out there. I often use pre-printed dungeons, even either pre-published ones or ones that are just blank that I can fill in because I can't draw, and my glasses have got something on them, that's why I keep doing this. So having a pre-printed map definitely helps me, especially if it's something I can like put down on the table, even if it's not accurate size, and just go, okay, this is here, which is your, whatever. So, if you're going to deep dive into the ecology of your dungeon environment, probably the first question I like to ask, and you might want to ask, is who built it or discovered it, and why did they build it? Because basically, dungeons have usually two basic origins. And it goes on the premise that, whoever this individual is or whatever this individual is had a choice. They could have just built a house, or they could have gone to all the trouble and expenditure of energy to build this vast, complex, monster treasure filled death trap. And for whatever reason, they chose option 2. So, a dungeon is either built for whatever reason to keep something in or to keep something out, usually. Or 2, a dungeon is something that the person or creature found, like ruins or a cave system, and expanded upon. Take, for example, the cornerstone dungeon of Dungeons & Dragons, Undermountain. The guy who is sort of responsible for the place found a series of caves and caverns and nooks and crannies that he started to explore and expand upon. And occasionally he would, uncover a basement or a ruin or something, and he would expand upon that. And then he eventually expanded into another cave complex or underground river or whatever. And he just kept building and expanding and using what was there and, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, until he finally just went, okay, I'm done. I'm exhausted. I need a break, and I can't afford this place anymore. So, there's really 2 types. 1, I built it. Castle Greyhawk or Castle Grayskull. 2, I found it and expanded it upon it. Mines of Pendelhaven, Undermountain, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, when deep diving into the ecology of your dungeon, who built it and why? Why was this their choice? Of all the choices that were available to them to accomplish whatever their goal is, why choose this? Because let's face it, of all the things out there, dungeons are pretty ridiculous and kind of expensive and very dangerous and usually end up being your own doom. Oh, well, I just led all these adventurers here and crap, now what? So, who and why? And once you have a general idea of who and why, it helps you tell the story. Undermountain, for all its good parts and bad parts, definitely tells the story of the slow descent of madness of Hallister and his explorations and the things he did while he was down there digging and experimenting and conducting his rituals and opening his wizard's academy and things that he found and things that he dealt with. It tells a non-linear, but still it tells the story of Hallister from the moment he began exploring these caves and working on them and expanding on them to the moment when he went insane, to the moment where he just went, I'm done. I'm exhausted. I'm passing this on to someone else, and I'm just gonna, do high-level wizard stuff. To the moment he supposedly maybe died or just left or whatever, depending upon where, whatever. But it tells a story, and it tells the story of Hallister, and it tells the story of why he did these things. The same with Castle Greyhawk. It tells the story slowly, non-linearly, of the individual who built the castle, why he built the castle, what happened while he was building the castle that required him to do more things and more experiments and dig deeper and get armies in and do the things that he did to lead to Castle Greyhawk being what it finally was when the adventurers first discovered it. Same with Temple of Elemental Evil, another great big hunking dungeon that tells a sort of non-linear story of these cultists and what they did and why they did it and what happened when they did so and so, etc., 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 etc. So who built your dungeon and why? Or why did they go into these caves and expand upon them? Because once you have a basic understanding of that, and it doesn't have to be a big, long, drawn-out, 37-page novel, but just a few notes, wizard wanted to conduct experiments away from the prying eye of people, started with a tower, but just kept expanding the tower. While expanding the tower, ran into goblins, had to fight the goblins, which resulted in more expansion and bringing in blah, 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 blah. But you get the general idea. Who is this person and why did they build this? Or why did they go out there looking for this or stumble across it by accident and then decide, what would be a great idea for these caves? Make them my lab. I could just build a house, but no. So when beginning the ecology of your dungeon, and if you want to do a deep dive and really, tell that non-linear story, who built it and why did they build it? Did they build it to keep something in? Did they build it to keep something out? Did they build it because they wanted a vacation home? Did they build it because they wanted someplace to conduct experiments? Whatever. What was their goal and what happened to them? Did they succeed? Did they fail? Did they get their own comeuppance? Was the dungeon eventually the instrument of their doom or their victory? Are they still in the dungeon? Have they left the dungeon? Are they the big bad in the dungeon? Or are they just one of the many encounters and actually there's a big whatever? Who built it and why did they build it? And once you get this general kernel of an idea, then you can move on. But you have this sort of non-linear story now that you're going to tell about this person or individuals or group and their history with the dungeon. Or at least that's what I think. And a lot of the really good dungeons do follow sort of this mentality of who built it and why, and what is the non-linear story that is, weaving through this vast complex that explores the history of this individual or this group or this monster or whatever. So let me know what you think. Let me know if you have a topic for this year's Mega Dungeon you'd like to see me explore down below. And we will continue with our deep dive into the ecology and mindset of dungeons leading up to March 1st and Mega Dungeon March. Talk to you later, losers.